So, what can you do today to protect the legacy that you worked so hard to build? Because as business owners, we all know that it's not easy to build a business. It's an everyday struggle. And the last thing that you would ever want is to realize that as soon as you're gone, or as soon as you're just one unforeseen accident from having everything wiped away. So, what can we take away from this presentation that you can kind of take these first steps to really solidifying this plan? The first step is to just plan your exit. Just think about your exit. I don't care if you thought about if this is your first day as a business owner, or even if you're thinking about starting a business. You really want to start from the end. And from my experience, there's two main exits that a business owner will have. They want to retire or sell the business. So if you are thinking, and these things can change at any point in time. So it's not like you get locked into something. It's everything is dynamic here. Anything can change. But if you have the idea that I want to retire from the business, then you want to think about, well, when do I want to stop working? Because the worst thing that could happen to you is you work so hard to build this business, and then you feel like you're stuck because you unexpectedly you burn out, but you feel an obligation to continue on the business, and now you almost feel like you're chained to it and you have no way out. So you really want to decide at what point in time do you want to stop working, and then you're planning backwards from there. Then you want to kind of go forward and think, well, how is the business, or is the business going to actually provide for me in retirement, and how does that work? Because when you're in retirement, the whole idea about retirement here is you want to live a life that you have passive income coming in every month that takes care of your expenses. So if the business is going to be providing that for you, you want to make sure that you are actually thinking about, what does that look like for the business, and what does that look like for me? And then you want to really think about, what does retirement look like for you? I've worked with business owners for them, retirement means I'm not in the day to day, but I'm a advisor. So the day to day managers, or the successor owners, run the business, but I still have the equity. I still have equity in the business, and I pitch in every now and again, and I'm available for meetings and for big picture ticket items. So you kind of have your foot in there, but for the most part, you're really not working on a day-to-day basis. You really want to define that. That's different for every single person. But that's something that you don't need to talk to a professional. These are all personal things that you can plan for yourself right now. For those of you who want to sell the business, I would think I would tell you, the first thing that you'd want to do is get an idea of how much your business is worth now, or what the potential could be. And there's paid ways of doing that, and there's some free ways of doing that. And I included a link here. You'll get a PDF of this presentation. So when you get the PDF, you should be able to click this link, and this cognitive valuation report, basically it's updated on a quarterly basis. It's free, and you can download it, and it gives you an idea of how to value your business depending on your industry. So if you want to sell the business, it's almost like selling a house. If I want to sell my house, what good is it to do? What good would it do for me to sell my house if I don't have any idea of what it's worth? So that allows you to create a target goal for your sale. So if you think you want to sell your business, well, it's more than just coming up with the number, but it's coming up with why that number serves you, or how that number serves you. And then you want to identify potential buyers that you could have now. And that really goes into the continuation plan. Because let's just say, for example, so one thing that we would tell our clients in the continuation plan is for the owners that don't have business partners, and you're in the business by yourself. You could have employees, maybe you don't have employees, but if something were to happen tomorrow, there's no one who owns the business. You could have a list of people that you would want to sell your business to, so that whoever owns the business, whoever's in control of your estate, can try to do so, to provide that liquidity for your estate. And you can do that now. There are some business owners who want to plan to sell their business to their employees, and there are different things that you can do to make sure that happens. But it all starts with you at least thinking about these things right now before you come to a professional. So step two.
Sam?
Yes.
Mary clarified her question. Rent a business, I think you were talking about motivated parties.
Okay. So I recall earlier in the presentation, we were talking about there's these the four motivations of the successor. I still don't quite know what you mean, Mary, by renting the business. There are owners, there's these four primary, are we talking about the four primary motivations, Mary? And I'm really sorry, I just don't recall that characterization, renting the business. So yeah, if you could, Mary, if that's correct, if I can talk about the four primary motivations again.
And while you're pondering that, there's another question. Does insurance create value for the business? If so, what kind?
So there's, when you talk about value for your business, a lot of it is subjective. Even if you get valuations for your business, it doesn't mean that someone is for sure going to pay that amount. So so the first part of the question is, yes, insurance does increase the value of the business, because what it does is it gives confidence in the potential buyer that if such and such happens, there's going to be a pot of money that you're going to have access to make sure that the business continues to run. So what usually will happen is, if you were to get an insurance policy for your business tomorrow, you wouldn't necessarily put that you have an insurance policy as a line item in your books and then value the business that way. That's not what you would do. What you would do is, when you want to sell your business and you sell it for X amount of money, and you go to the potential buyer and they are doing their due diligence, they're examining your books, one of the things they're going to be examining, and one of the things that you're going to be giving them, is the insurance policy. And then you're explaining to them that this insurance policy is valid and it's in the name of the business. So it's almost considered an asset that is going to pay out in this specific scenario. There could potentially, and I don't want to overstep my sphere of knowledge here. So there could potentially be insurance policies that give an immediate value to your business. I'm not aware of them. I do know that there are that would apply to a person individually, but I'm not sure if those same policies would exist for a business. So, and this goes to my point, an insurance professional will be able to answer that. But from a holistic standpoint, it does provide an intrinsic value to the business, especially when you're looking to sell. So we'll talk about this step two. You identify your successors. And this answers the question of who's going to own the business and what will be their role after you're gone. And this is just more than just I'm gonna just, if I have children, I use the example of children a lot because it comes up a lot. A lot of business owners, it seems, are very interested in leaving their business to their children. But you got to take it a step further, because you have to understand that, especially in the case of minors, that if the minor steps into the business ownership role, how does that work? Who is going to ensure that the minor's interest is protected? Who is actually going to be running the day-to-day if the minor owns the equity interest in the business? So those are going to be things that you want to think about. For those of you who identify an adult successor, what role are they going to play after you're gone? Because just because you own equity in the business, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to occupy the role of the owner. You can occupy different job positions. You can occupy a variety of different roles in the company that fit that successor's primary motivation. So as a review, it's cash flow, job security, wealth accumulation, or legacy. So when these successors are, if you can identify what their primary motivation is, you are fitting their role in their new role in the company that really goes to their primary motivation, not yours, because you're going to be gone. If you want your business to continue, the best way it's going to do that is if the successor's role is in line with their primary motivation. And as I said before, with minors and spouses, if the minors and spouses aren't going to be in a day-to-day, then who is going to be in a day-to-day to make sure that their interests are protected when you're gone? And if your successors are the employees, how is that going to work? If you're going to leave the business to the employees, how are the employees going to acquire that ownership interest? In some examples, and this is common with medical professionals, they like to leave their business to, so in the example of a physician, I've seen a lot of cases where a physician will leave the business to a physician's assistant. And so they will come up with different ways to allow the assistant to buy into the company. Other examples are what we call an employee stock ownership plan. On a high level, just know that it's basically is a way that the business sets aside shares in the company that are earmarked for employees, and money, and it's almost like a trust fund. Money gets funneled into the fund through the equity interest, so that when the employees, it's going to be either when employees leave or when the owner leaves the business, it provides a way for these employees to take over the business and take over that equity. And it also actually provides a lot of, and this is where you would talk to an accountant, there's a lot of tax advantages for instituting these things in your business today. So the step 3 is to actually memorialize the plan, write it down. If you actually write down the answers and the ideas to these topics in some sort of document, you're really creating the foundation of a succession plan, so that when you're actually ready to bring it to a professional, you're cutting down on the time it takes to get it done. And you're already priming yourself to think about how to plan this out the right way, or how to plan this out to the way that you want it, instead of over relying on the professional to actually, feed you the answers of, how am I going to actually pass my business down? You can write down procedures to follow in case of emergencies. So these procedures won't have any, they're not contracts, they won't have any legal effect, but they're just simple documents that you can kind of write down that your employees have access to in case of emergencies. It could be specific bank account information, or where the bank account is located, or who needs to be notified, who are the key vendors. It's all these things can be written down today for you, so that you actually have some sort of plan in motion if you leave tomorrow. And you want to give that plan to somebody who would be responsible for the business if something unexpected occurs. So this will be a part of the business continuation plan. You're just writing these ideas down, so at the very least you have something. And if something were to happen unexpectedly, that person can take this and run with it. And at least you can have that assurance and some peace of mind to know that, oh, hell won't break loose if something happens tomorrow. And you can build out your team of professionals. There's, to go to the question about, there's a really good question about, who do you talk to first? I'm willing to bet that out of the 4 professionals, everyone on this call knows at least somebody. You at least know maybe an accountant or a lawyer, or a financial advisor. One of the 4. And then I would pretty sure that one of those 4 that you do know will know at least 2 of the 4. So you can really think about that. Think about, who would I want to come to ask, maybe start asking questions about what happens next, or how do I do this, or what's your role in doing this, or do you offer this as a service itself? And or do you know a business succession planning attorney that can help me get this started? You can seek these referrals and introductions, or at the very least just write them down, so that you already have some sort of plan of action today that you can start to at least put into place sometime afterwards. Because I guarantee you that 90% of business owners don't even have that. So you just write these things down, and you're putting yourself way ahead of the curve of a lot of other business owners that aren't thinking about these